你要帮我顶一下。
So again, our prep is going to be exactly the same as it is for any standard application. Any cuticle on the cuticle line, the nail plate.
No, facultad da.
Sì.
Again, because we're going to put a tip on, I'm going to go ahead and use the 100 grit side of this buffer and just etch up that surface just a little bit more. You need to bring it off of the nail. And then we're using our pH bond. Cleans and dries the nail. I'm going to go ahead and prep my nails. I'm using my 150 grit file actually, and just thinning down that contact area.
What is this?
This is, I'm going to actually use the base from our dip system as the adhesive for the nail tip. In order to do that, I actually have to use the prep that comes with it. If I use just this prep, it will actually slow down the curing of the resin of the adhesive, so it'll take too long. So that's why I'm gonna use this prep. With your thumb. Just giving it a little extra time to set up. Normally it's super, super fast, but because of
Can I
the,
use like glue for tips, like regular glue? Or
yes,
this is better.
yes, I actually prefer this to regular nail glue. I feel I get a better bond this way. This resin is a little bit thicker, so especially on nails that have an uneven surface like this, you'll get a better, I think you get a better bond. Okay. Okay. We're ready to rock and roll. Almost ready to rock and roll.
Mhm. Also, you're working in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
If I have some questions,
I'll give you my email address.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have the fun job today.
Yeah. Bring on what?
Just trying to get the shape as spot on before I start. Oh, there's less nonsense later. Okay, so for our dip, we have 5 essentials that you'll need. It's your prep, the base coat, the activator, the top coat, and the brush restore, which is really recommended because the brush can get a little bit gummy if it's overexposed to the activator. So that's what this, well, one full hand,
Wow.
so that she didn't feel lopsided.
Yeah,
She begged, David. I couldn't say no. How am I supposed to say no to that phase? How can I say no?
See you online.
Oh, good Lord. What are you doing to me? Okay. So we did all that touching and fussing. We're going to need to put prep on the natural nail. Okay, because we're using tips, we are going to have to do a little additional application right at that contact point, just to reinforce the tip and also to make sure the structure is proper. So unlike acrylic that you want to pack down when you use this powder, you want to leave it loose. So flip it. This is our French dip dish. Okay, so to reinforce the tips, first thing that we're going to do, take a small amount of base and kind of apply it right on that seam, and then dip into the clear. That's going to reinforce that for us. I'm going to move this a little bit closer to you. Right, hang there. And obviously, where you position that bead really is going to depend on the shape of the natural nail, the shape of the nail that you're going for, what the actual situation is that's happening on the nail plate. So it's not a hard and fast, it has to be done this one way. You want to use your best judgment. Notice though I'm not going sidewall to sidewall, because then we'd wind up with a big band across that area, and that's not what we want. Now I'm going to dust off the excess. Okay, and I'm actually going to, with the 100 side of the buffer, gently buff. That'll help eliminate any shadowing that might happen. Yay, very happy with that. Okay. So we're going to use a simple shear. And we're using Arctic Freeze. Now, the dip dish actually has two ends that you can use to do the French tip with. One is an oval shape, so you're going to get a deeper smile line. And one is a round shape. You'll get a flatter smile line. I'm going to use the oval so that we can try and match what we've already got going on there, okay? And you want to work quickly as you can. And you want your dish to be as level and even as you can. And our first application is going to be 3/4 of the nail. You don't want to go all the way to the sidewalls or to the cuticle. And then we're just going to slide. And then go into the pink.
The same way for colors too. You don't put on.
Yes, when you're doing the color, the same thing. You don't want to go all the way to the sidewall
And 3/4.
or to the cuticle, because otherwise you wind up with a wall of color all along the cuticle area. I know it looks a little scary now, but don't you worry. And then we go back and we brush the excess off. I'm going to give that one more minute before I do that one. And then I level out again. I was always concerned with dip, and the idea is it's sanitary, is it really, really clean? And what I've come to understand is that there's no way for bacteria to grow in these jars. First of all, there has to be moisture. There's no moisture. Second of all, it wouldn't survive in that environment. It's too caustic. So it's basically an antibacterial product, if you will. So as long as the hands are clean that are going in, you're good. Now we're going to get right up to that cuticle. Dip that white again. And then the pink. The dip French is the fastest pink and white ever. Especially if you're doing it just on a natural nail. It's so quick. You can do a full set in well under an hour. I think that's one of the reasons why it's such a popular service. Okay, I'm just going to let those set for a moment while I close everything up so that I don't knock it over, which I have done, which is horrible. Brush the excess off. I'll let that one sit just for one more minute. Now we're going to this is the activator. Going to help create the seal with the base coat. This one's going to need to be done again. See how I didn't get it along the cuticle line? Just going to let that sit for a second. We're going to put our base coat on. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to buff and file for shape.
Is it this one for top?
I realized after I started putting the base on it as a seal, it's okay. It's just going to take a little bit longer to set. So I'll start at the pinky. It's not part of an essential part of. It just helps speed the process. That's what the activator is for. So I'm using the 100 grit side of my buffer. And again, I'm all about these circular motions. It really helps remove file marks. Have you used dip systems before?
Yes, I use it. I have problem.
What's
Is there a problem?
Yeah, because sometimes like the color put
It's not even?
not even like bump.
Right. Okay.
Why?
So one of the things that Harmony has done with their dips is that they have formulated the size of the particles to the specific color that it is. So if it's a cream, there are a specific range of sizes. If they're glitters, it's a completely different range of sizes. So the particles are designed to lay properly so you get a smooth surface without any of those bumps.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that sets this line apart, is that they've actually gotten down into the science of how the particles lay inside the resin so that you get the smoothest possible finish with the least amount of work. That is what this system is about. Best look, minimal work. So they really have put a lot of science into eliminating that very problem, the clumping.
Mhm.
Another thing that can help minimize the clumping is when you're putting your base coat on,
Mhm.
very thin. You don't want it to be heavy, because then when you dip, it's getting pushed. And that can cause some of that wrinkling and rippling also. So
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
why this resin base coat is so good, because its consistency is thick. So you don't have to put it on heavy. You just put a nice coat on like you're putting on base coat. And then when you're dipping, you don't want to dip straight in. It's a 45-degree angle. And it's either this way or 45-degree this way. But this is not the way you want to go in. You don't want to go straight into it, because that can cause wrinkling as well.
Mhm.
Gonna help it along. You can throw the activator on top of it. Since I forgot. Give that a few seconds and then I'll finish up. I'm going to go ahead and refine my edges and my sidewalls. If you need to, you can give it a little bit of shaping. You don't want to do a whole lot of shaping when you're working with the dip system. It's not really, it's not necessary if you're putting it on properly, and it's not really designed to take a whole lot of shaping. So just a little bit, just to refine the surface is really all you want to do.
And brush software you using
The restore, I actually,
after
every service.
every service?
Yeah, I find that it helps prevent the problem. I actually have two separate brushes for my dip.
Yeah, me too. But sometimes.
Sometimes you just can't.
Mhm.
So then it waits till the end of the day. That's all right. Nobody's going to call the dip police on us. And you, in fact, do want to do the buffer first
Mhm.
to take the shine off. It makes it much easier to file if you have to. See that? That's because I didn't get activator on that spot.
Your nail looks very nice. How you remove cuticle?
I do a Russian manicure with my e-file. So I can show you the bits that I use, but I do a Russian manicure with my e-file. Watch what I say. It will be repeated. Okay, so now we're ready to seal this.
Mhm.
Watch what I say. It will be repeated. So I'm going to start with my activator. So now we're ready to seal this. I want to get the whole nail.
Hey, Connie，你好。
哎。
做一下看，他在做Jolish 的 dipping powder。
哦。
做吧。
哦。
你要做吗？
还好不用。
Top coat.
Will it help?
Can you? I have pliers if I need it.
Top coat.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so now we need 2 coats of top coat to get smooth shine. The one caveat about the top coat is that it is very sensitive to air and movement. So when you're doing the top coat, you want to make sure that your client is staying still.
No problem right now, yes. Oh, my goodness. Hey.
How much would that? How much would that? This demonstration. Here, Irish.
Tinted perm
Perm and yeah.
and eyebrow tinting.
And you can see that it'll be ready for the next coat when it gets a little bit textured looking.
I see.
And sometimes when I put top coat, after a few minutes, when I put it's shiny, after a few minutes, like little area, not shiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a common problem with dip. Again, you avoid movement,
Mhm.
wind disturbance. Make sure that you have given the activator ample enough time
Mhm.
to set before you apply the top coat.
Mhm.
Two full minutes before you touch that. And if that's not shiny enough, you can put a 3rd coat on. In all honesty, I use, again, my gelish top coat. I will do the dipping, do the activator, do the base coat for the final before I buff, and then I buff for shape, and then I use my top coat. The idea of the dip system is that you don't need to use a light, and that's fine. But I find that the sensitivity of the top coat kind of can slow you down a little bit. So I like the speed of the gelish to top it off. So I'll use my light for that
But
part.
gel polish, sometimes they could take it off after a few days.
No, I'm not having that problem with this dip. Not having that problem at all.
When I put it's yours.
That's what I have on.
Okay. Top coat gel. Yeah?
Yep.
On dip.
On dip. on top of polygel. Because
This is for polygel.
this is polygel. This is gelish dip. Two different things. Yes, and we have all sorts of things going on down here. So I would buff that whole thing again and put top coat on it. That's what I would do. So that's up to you if you want me to do it or not. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Very nice. My head looks different.
Beautiful. Huh?
Okay, so now we'll finish you off with oil. I always want to finish with oil. Okay, there you go.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'm beautiful.
它这个 tips powder 啊还是 tips？
That's this is not powder. These tips are
Yeah.
white tips,
No, those were natural tips
natural tips with a white powder,
with
Yeah.
white and pink.
white and pink, white tipping powder.
And you said you will show how you do it, how you.
Oh, I want to show
它
you.
这
Want
个
to see
就
the
是用那个做出来的形状，就是用
so
那现在今天就是做这个胶呢？
no，还有 powder 胶，还有这个 powder 胶，
这个也是 powder 胶啊？
这个是 powder 胶，这是 powder 胶，不一样
哦，
，different。
yeah, this is a
She wants
acrylic
to-
and resin, and this is polygel, which is
She wants see the
polygel. Okay, sure.
你
So
要做 model 吗？
near hand.
做一个
So I
做一个
would
嘛
push,
You
and
can see
lift.
how the different product. That's
and then I
polygel.
start with the cylinder and flat to the nail in one direction and then in the other direction, and just get into that nail groove. Okay. And then I'm going to take my football and I'm going to do the same thing at a 45-degree angle, though. I'm going to get in here, and as I'm e-filing this cuticle area, I'm pushing so that it's more towards the cuticle than it is the nail. Feel the difference? Okay. So then I'm going to go in one direction, and then I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Okay. If it's necessary, because it's not always necessary, and somebody like you, it wouldn't be necessary because you have a really good soft cuticle. I would take one of the balls, depending on if it's really heavy, hard, I'm going to take the bigger ball. If it's really light and fine, take the little ball.
I know. I use it this one too.
Mhm.
I know, but.
And usually I don't have to do any cutting. If there's any cutting to be done, it's minimal.
But for me, problems take long time. For me, I do like 1 hour.
Gel, use gel.
No.
No, we're
Oh,
we're talking about Russian manicure with the
Oh.
e-file. If you're not doing it on every client, if you're not practicing it, it can take a little bit longer again because it's, you're learning something outside the ordinary. I find I have to remember that I'm not going to get the result I want from each individual step, but from all the steps together. So I try not to overwork. I actually only take one swipe one way, one swipe the other. And regardless of whether all of the material that I want to get out has come up or not, I stop and go on to the next step. If it's not removed, again, one swipe, go to the next step. If it's still there at the end after I've used all the bits, that's when I use my nippers. And that has speeded up my process significantly by remembering I'm not going to get the perfect result at the end of each step, but at the end of all of them together.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. You want to see the polygel one more time?
Okay,
Yeah.
one more time, yeah.
So, to see the step, what product,
Yeah.
then you use
但
it.
现在我做
Polygel，
它
对 ，polygel，不是
Polygel
polygel，
哦
这个就是跟 SNS entity 是一样的。
一样的哦，这个
对
一样
你只是说选不一样的颜色。
嗯
One, two, three, four step 是一样的。
那就做这个吧。就
他做这个给
新的
你看，对
嗯，
这个是最新的。
OK，就做最新的。没错。
What would you like to see? Would you like to see a pink and white? Would you like to
Yes.
see an extension, tip, an overlay?
One extension, one just on nail.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
This extension.
And of course, that's the one you want the extension on, right? Gonna make my job difficult, but I'm up for the challenge.
I every day doing custom, you see.
Mhm. Okay, so we'll do the extension on this one.
嗯哼。
Okay.
刚才他是做 NTT 的那个啊，他是做 NTT 哈。
它
做了一个
是
是 polygel，然后
Gelish 的。Which one's
This one,
polygel?
this.
This is polygel.
嗯
这是 polygel。
嗯哼。
下面都是 gel。These are dipping powder, gelish dipping powder. How many gelish color powder have? 144.
The
120.
dip,
Yeah,
120.
120. 120个颜色。
哎，我买的都买100多瓶了。
对，你买的是其他的牌子 entity，
NTT 也。
这个是刚到的，对。
哦。我是买 SNS and NTT 的。
Okay, I'm doing the standard prep that we do for any application. I'm using the 100 grit side of my buffer just to take the shine off the nail and etch the surface just a little bit. Removing the debris.
There's a custom.
This is our cleanse. It's part of our gelish line.
Mhm.
It's to clean the nail before application and to cleanse the sticky residue at the end. Okay, and you want the overlay on which nail? Does it matter? This one? This one?
This one. This one.
That one. Okay, we're gonna do both of these at the same time. So let me
Okay.
just. So most people ask, what is it? Is it a hard gel? Is it acrylic? It is neither. It is the best of both of those worlds without any of the trouble of mixing ratios for acrylic, liquid and powder. You don't have to chase like you would with hard gel because it's such a thick product that it doesn't move around, and it cures only when it's exposed to UV or LED light. So you have an infinite amount of working time. But because it's so easy to use, it's very fast and very efficient. It also is 24% lighter than acrylic, 16% lighter than hard gel, and as durable, easily as durable as acrylic is. The bond that it makes to the natural nail is like no other product I've ever used. I love it. Love it. has a very low odor, practically no odor, minimal dust when we file. Make sure that we get our form on. Let's turn that hand around to make sure it's straight. Okay. I'm going to open up the back of this form. Okay. So, my little tidbits out of the way. Cover pink. And then I'll just do a one color application on your, okay. Okay, good. So we're going to start with our Pro Bond. Our pH bond. This is going to clean and dry the nail surface. And then I'm going to apply my Pro Bond. This is our non-acid primer. It's a protein bonder. Just want enough for the nail to look moist, not wet. Making sure I get the free edge. Okay. So I'm actually going to start with the Natural Nail Overlay. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to squeeze off a bead, slice, and then we're going to roll this into the center of the nail. Now I'm going to use my slip solution. My slip solution is not a monomer. There's no active monomers in it, no caustic solvents that are going to cause damage to the nail or to the tissue surrounding it. So it's okay if I actually get my brush on the surface of your skin. The trick here is as little as possible. Okay, so we're going to dip, squeegee off, and then bleed out the excess. We want to make the bead pretty, so I'm trying to make it even all the way around. And then what we're going to do is with the body of the brush, not the bristle tips or over here by the ferrule, but in the center, right in the body of the brush, we're going to press. And then we're going to press it out to the sidewall. What's important to remember is the position of the brush really, really matters in the direction that the polygel moves. So you want to rotate the brush as you're working across the nail. So once you have it spread evenly from sidewall to sidewall, before you dip your brush again, you want to go back and now work the cuticle line. Very light touches. It doesn't take a lot to move the product, so you want to keep your pressure really light. And once you feel your brush sticking, you feel how it sticks? Okay, we want to dip. And then pat from sidewall to sidewall all the way down the nail. And then you just stroke to smooth. And that's okay that I'm pulling it out way past the nail. That's okay. What we do there is with my slicing tool, I'm going to take the excess off. Okay. Normally what I do with any excess that I carve off is I have a separate tub that I actually scrape it into. I use that to do toes or to practice work with, so I don't waste any of my polygel. That's good. We're gonna just clean this sidewall a little bit. Got a little in that nail groove there. I want to clean that off. Okay. So to do pink and white,
有客人呢， 哎我
to do a pink and white, we have to start with a clear base. Okay.
วันนี้今天吹嘛，
So I'm going to take a very small bead.
That's clear.
Right. It's called natural clear because it's not actually crystal clear. When it's on the nail, it actually has kind of a, I don't know how to describe it. It's not crystal clear. So we
Not
call it
crystal.
natural clear. It looks more like a natural nail than a crystal clear nail.
你睇呢嗱，
So
佢睇嘅嚟，
we're going to unload that right on the very edge of the natural nail. And then we're going to create a really thin free edge. This padding process is the technique. It's really important for this application because the pressing is what A, makes good contact to the natural nail, and B, presses out any air bubbles that might be in the product. So it's much better to press to move the product than try to pull the product with the brush.
它那个有点像做 acrylic 的那个样。
Okay, so I'm going to pull this very thin. Make sure we have good curve in there.
當然個個人能眼，
叫亚克力，
但係對冇間呢，
你啊，安尼你
間係呢嗱，
应该你好啦。
該就係
So what I want to make sure is that I have good contact and that I don't have any bulk right here at that contact point, that it's not lumpy. And have you go ahead into the light. So we're going to cure the whole hand in, please. Whole hand. And nice and flat. Perfect. The next color we're going to use is our cover pink so that we can extend your nail bed and hide all of that unpleasantness at that free edge. Okay. Now I'm going to remove the form. And now I have a clear edge that I can put my product on and it will cure all the way through. So we start with our cover pink.
拼。
Okay. Medium size bead, medium to small size bead. We don't need a lot. Now we're going to unroll this. Roll that off right onto the center of the nail. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make our bead pretty. And then we're going to press. Press it sidewall to sidewall. And what I'm working on here is determining where I want the peaks of my smile line to be. That's where I'm going to stop pushing. So that's pretty good. I like where that's at. Now I'm going to create my smile line. Gentle touch. And when I get it to about the length I want, I go ahead and I'm going to really feather that contact point where that hover pink is out, because we're going to fill that cuticle area with actually the dark pink so that we have a smooth transition. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to refine my smile line. So I don't want to pull my brush. I want to press. And what I want to make sure here is that I'm getting a solid wall from sidewall to sidewall. And notice how I'm not dragging the brush around. If you do that, you'll pull your polygel one way or the other. So you want to keep your brush straight up and down. Okay, I'm going to turn your hand up and around just to look, make sure it's even. Okay, go ahead and put that hand in, please. Again, I'm not worried about structure or shape. We want that ski slope. We want that wall. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put my white on and push it up to that and then file. And then I'm going to have a perfectly crisp smile line because I've made that nice straight up and down wall. So now to do the cuticle area and to create structure and shape, I'm going to use the dark pink, same color that I used on your.
Okay.
Squeeze a small bead. That's even more than I'm going to need. I can tell you right now. That's enough.
Hello.
Okay, again, I'm going to make my bead pretty. As pretty as I can. And then we're going to press. Working it sidewall to sidewall and up towards the cuticle. And now is where I'm going to work on my structure. Making sure that my apex is where I want it, that I have a good transition to the cuticle line. Once I feel my brush starting to stick, I'm going to go ahead and dip again. And then we're going to pull that just to where it feathers into nothing. Okay?
Cái này không
in nào tin
tin thấy không? Cái này nè, nhưng mà treo không rồi.
So I'm checking. I want to make sure that I actually have my apex right where I want it. So I'm just refining that just a little bit. Okay, go ahead and put that in light. We're going to cure that just for a flash cure, 5 seconds. Okay, you can take that out. And now we're going to do our bright white. Squeeze, slice, and roll. Gonna roll that off onto the free edge. And I like to use my spatula to just pull it sidewall to sidewall. It makes it a little bit easier for me to spread it and move it up the nail evenly. Thank you. Had a little fuzz. Now, we call this a sloppy French application because we're not concerned with getting the white on the smile line a little bit, up over the smile line a little bit. As a matter of fact, that ensures that we have really good contact to that smile line. No little air pockets. Because we're going to file this and file any of that away. So I've moved it into place. Now I'm going to pat, 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 pat. This patting motion assures that I'm A, working it evenly across the nail. B, it gets rid of any little air bubbles. So it's better to pat and then stroke to smooth, okay? I have a little fuzz here. I'm going to get rid of this.
If you be too much liquid on brush, what is
If I have,
problem will be?
so if I have too much liquid on my brush, a couple things can happen. One is the liquid can slide down under the bead that we're working on and interfere with adhesion so that you'll wind up with either pocket lifting or with lifting at the cuticle line. The other thing is if you use way too much, you'll know you'll have a lot on your brush and the surface will look slick all the time. Even after, right after you've touched it, it'll immediately look slick. That can make the surface, it's like, it would be like filing odorless acrylic. You know how it kind of gets a little gummy? That's what will happen to the surface if you use too much slip. So then we're going to just cut the excess off. And again, I would put this in my little tray. Oh, I just want to check it before I send you in there. One of the nice things about Polygel is I have the time to refine the nail before I put it in the light. I'm not chasing the clock and I'm not chasing gel. Okay, 30.
好处就是不会干，也不会流，
也不会扭呀。
胶会流，
对
所以两边容易厚，当中会薄。它这个不会，它这个就是
很均匀。
对，但这个水不能太多，
一点点啊
对，一
我知道
点就够了，
一点点
只是湿润一下你这个笔，
是这样子。
不会有
这个如果做一套要多少？
What he said.
差不多好了没有？我明天早上再来。
对，他明天还会在。
因为我有客人在等。
Okay, so the bright white is the only color in this line that needs to be cured for 2 full minutes. So we're going to put your hand back in the light. I want you to put your hand back in because this still has to cure.
在你放里面。
放里面。
When you have your application refined and you're able to get the product on in the proper depth, proper thickness, you can cut that down to a minute. But when you first start working with it, make sure that you're curing for 2 full minutes. And remember, you're not adding any time by having to do that because you're working one hand, putting it in the light, and then you'll be working on the other hand while that's curing. So you just hit the button a couple more times. Okay, so I want you to feel it because there's very, very little sticky residue.
That's okay, very good.
Yeah, so you don't have to cleanse at this point. You can take your file and start filing, which I love.
这个如果做一套要收多少钱？
How much you charge? 65, right? Depends on.
Yes, if I'm putting a form on, I'm charging $65.
And regular?
This, $40.
$40?
So if I'm doing this in color, it's $40.
Okay. 现在我店里边的 powder 胶做了很多。
Dipping powder.
Dip. For the dip, I actually, I charge the same thing.
$40.
$40.
Pink and white 65, right?
If I'm doing it, if I have to put tips on to do it, it's 65. If it's just pink and white on the natural nail, it's
它这个
55.
有几种颜色的，很多
But
颜色。
again, I'm
No.
I'm coming
只
from
是
a
做这个。
These only have clear, light pink,
light pink,
dark pink,
dark pink, and
color
white.
pink,
Oh,
and
Bright white and soft
white,
white.
white, soft white.
okay.
I don't think I have. Do you have two
Like
whites?
Yes,
Okay,
bright white and soft white.
Now I
5
need
or
to,
6
I
colors.
need to go. Tomorrow coming early. I have customer waiting for me to powder gel.
Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to do after I do my sidewall, my free edge, is I'm going to file my smile line.
Okay.
You can use an e-file to do this. As a matter of fact, in Salon, that's exactly what I do. I use my e-file because it's super, super fast. I use a medium or fine cross-cut ceramic bit. I don't like to use the mandrel with the bands because they clog.
它是用那个陶瓷的那个钻头，
哦，
就是白色的。
陶瓷。
对。
等一下，这个出来 SNS 没有人做了。
No， 不一样的 SNS， that's dipping powder，but 这个是 polygel different。
Better.
It's better and
it's lighter and stronger, I think. And you don't need to take them off every single time.
Correct.
You can do refills.
Yep, just fill it.
That's very
可以
对吧？
做
你不需要 you don't need it every single time you come up to the salon to soak them off. So you can just like fill. And you can put the UV gel polish over it. Or regular polish over it. So it's different.
那个 SNS 肯定要泡掉。
Yeah. All the dipping system, you don't do refills. You just come
Just
up
take a-
to do all of it again. To do it.
So little circular motions to help eliminate the file marks. And because this is, if I were doing this nail, I would just use,
This nail tomorrow do for me. You do to finish.
just finish that one? Sure.
I wanna go. Customer waiting.
You come back tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow morning.
Okay. I'll be here.
Beginning 9:30.
我忘记了。
Yeah, 9:30.
我忘记了今天嘛，刚刚哎呀
Oh.
想起了，他拿过来，他哎呀，赶紧跑过来。这个时候本来不可以。
早上还比较好。More time.
Tomorrow, yes.
What time?
9:30. Start at 9:30.
Then put the top coat, gel top
Thank
coat.
you.
Yeah.
Yep.
See you tomorrow. Okay.
Just this one gel top coat, yeah.
You can use any top coat
Any
you
top
want,
coat.
any top coat you
Any
want.
top coat.
I love my gelish top it
Gelish
off.
top coat is nice.
Yes.
现在我们都上来给你讲过一次了，他们都喜欢用这个，
Yeah.
比那个雪纳的好。
但便宜，便宜。
不是
便宜。
不是雪纳的为什么呢？它也很厚，有时候你擦不均匀，它一烘一下凹凸不平。
Okay, in you go.
Oh, beautiful. I wanna come
And
in tomorrow.
And they changed the new packaging, you know. 它新包装了 top coat.
他们新包装了。
Yeah, it's like the bottles looks like that.
哦，OK。
哦，
And they have a rounded brush.
Yeah.
The brush
It's
is
much
round,
easier to
much
apply.
easier to get a
Round
good,
brush.
good, yeah.
这个也很简单，因
这个很
为我们会
easy
做亚克力，一看一下我们都知道了。
原理都一样，是吧？
嗯，
而且又没味道，
没有味道，对，
没有味道。
就是亚克力要把它除掉，
我最讨厌的
亚克力是味道真的
最浓
很重，
最浓，
最浓，对身体也不好。
对，大家照不好。
有的人问，而且呢，allergy 就是会过敏，
过敏
有的时候那个
手会
会
痒。
痒啊，对，一起啊，and then
That's it.
swell 啊
That's it.
Okay,
就是
beautiful. So I come in tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I wanna see you tomorrow morning.
I will
again.
see you tomorrow morning.
Sure.
this is
My name
regular
Connie.
custom.
Connie?
Connie.
Danielle. Okay, nice to meet you. Thank you.
I everything ordered here.
Yeah.